Welcome back to the second hour of the Big Money Show. I'm Jackie DeAngelis, and I am here with my co-host. Joining us for the hour, Fox News contributor Liz Peek is also here. Welcome. All right, the U.S. and China are at a standstill. Talks stalled and tensions rising.
I would say that they are a bit stalled. I believe that we will be having more talks with them in the next few weeks, and I believe we may at some point have a call between the president and party chair Xi.
And now President Trump is turning up the heat. He took to Truth Social this morning saying after he made a fast deal with China, China has, quote, totally violated its agreement with the United States. We're going to be hearing from the president later this hour at a press conference with Elon Musk. We will bring you that as soon as it all begins. So, Liz Peek, you're the new voice at the table, and I want to get your take on China. I've heard that line before, that China's violated its part of the agreement. They never stand up and do what they say they're going to do. It's kind of part of their playbook. No surprise here. But the question is, especially with this tariff stuff now in court, how the president is going to hold their feet to the fire this time.
Well, I think it's a good question. I mean, I think he's being tapped along, to use his language, by Xi. Xi is looking at this, what's going on in the courts. He's looking at public opinion in America, which is very anti-tariff. At least that's our news media, with the exception of some, pretty beating up Trump about tariffs. But I think it's kind of important occasionally to go back to the beginning here. What is going on with China? They have been waging economic warfare against the United States for 20 or 30 years. They have stolen massive amounts of intellectual property, which goes on. They engage in corporate espionage. Something like 40% of American corporations have reported that China has hacked their intellectual property. They are illegally manipulating currency. They subsidize illegally, again, their state-owned enterprises. They have done everything possible to basically undermine the United States and our companies' worldwide competitiveness. And so we are, what's so infuriating is legislators in Congress have let this go on. No one has stood up to them. Trump is trying to do that. So, yes, tariffs are the most obvious way to go. I frankly don't know what Trump is exactly referring to here. I'm assuming is that China is not budging off their position in terms of tariffs or non-tariff barriers to competition, which they have a tremendous amount of in China. So I think we have to kind of wait and see, and I'm sure Trump will address this. But China is the bad guy here. It is not Trump. It is not Trump sort of instigating this problem. The problem existed. He is trying to address it.
I think he's still mad about the soybeans because they were supposed to take all the extra soybeans from our farmers, and they stopped doing it.
Sure.
But Dagan, even if we do have a deal with China, you always say the same thing, which is that you can't trust them.
You can't trust them. And I prefer the harsh tone out of the president on China.
Yeah.
China is our adversary, and China needs to be treated as such. China needs to be iced out. We need to circle our trading partners around China and cut them off. China unleashed the COVID pandemic on the world, killing more than 1 million Americans. It's like 1.1 million Americans, and then unleashed the fentanyl pandemic on the United States, killing hundreds of thousands of Americans. How much more are we going to take from this communist nation that wants to destroy the United States of America? And so we buy all this garbage from China, including this, Tim Cook, made in China. So we're buying, we have no access into the Chinese market. If you go there, American businesses want to operate there. They want to be in there and operate. We do not. If you go to China, I've said this before, I was talking to someone who was on a business trip recently. It is not like you're in the Western world. It is nighttime compared to, say, being in South Korea or in Tokyo or in Japan or any of the other developed nations. It is all Chinese tech. It is Chinese product. It is your credit cards don't work. Your payment systems don't work. absolutely nothing works because there are no Western companies allowed to essentially operate in there. Will they ever let that happen? Absolutely not.
Well, and by the way, meanwhile, what Trump is counting on is that China's economy is being hurt by the tariff war and by our increased competition and kind of toughness. And it is. I mean, manufacturing's at a 16-year low. Retail consumer spending has been decelerating, and that's something they absolutely have to encourage in order to grow their economy. So right now, what's happening in the United States, we just saw the April numbers on personal income up 0.8%, more than twice at least what the expected level is. We are doing okay, and they are not. So it's a very good time to bring the war to China. They are looking for global economic dominance. That is what they want to achieve, and they're doing everything they can to get there.
Even still, we can't totally decouple from them, right?
Oh,
we
sure.
are stuck sort of in bed with them. You too, Brian, wrote a song about it, With or Without You. I Can't Live.
Nice reference. I like a little Joshua tree for you there. I think a couple things are interesting that Scott Bessent said. One, he said talks are stalled, okay? That tells the Chinese something. It tells them, we're just, whatever you're saying to us, whatever you're bringing, we're not happy with it, okay? The second thing he hinted at was that there was going to be maybe a phone call, maybe a meeting between President Trump and Xi. I don't know if Xi knows that. But I think what the president is trying to do here is say, low-level stuff with these guys is going to get us nowhere. It never has. Larry Kudlow has testified to that on this program. I think the president wants to get across from Xi, and I think he wants to address all of the things that you raised, Dagan. And I do think he wants a deal, because I think that it's not going to be total decoupling. It's going to be strategic. But I think he wants to send a very clear message that we know what happens to China if we keep doing to China what we've been doing to them.
Right.
The unrest is going to be significant. And I think that's how he's going to get something done. There's nobody else who's going to get this done but President Trump. And Scott Bessent basically made that clear in that interview. Things go nowhere until the two top guys meet.
And we're right here with, just to remind everybody, during this pause period, what was promised. China cut their tariff from 125 to 10%. The U.S. cut its tariff from 145 to 30%. The U.S. 20% tariff due to fentanyl remained intact, and reductions are going to go for 90 days, which we're eating into that time as we're heading into early August.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, you know, some terms need to be reached, or I don't know, do the tariffs ratchet back up? Where Trump goes with this?
I'm with Liz on this about this is a game of who needs who more. So right after, and I'm getting lazy, I apologize. I had a chart of the day. I forgot to send it. I'll put it out on X for you guys.
I will act it out in improvisational dance. If you just show it to me,
Here we go.
I will do.
The number of container ships from China to the U.S. post-Liberation Day plunged to 40 a day. We rebound a little bit. We're down to 30 a day. So this is the question. Perfect. Just a straight line down.
Totally.
So Dagan, it just goes like that.
Right.
Great pantomime. That comes down to who needs who more. We are their greatest customer. If they're not sending us ships, either they're not making it or we're not buying it. It hurts them. I'll do rough math, 5 times as much as it hurts us, because we buy 5 times as much crap than they buy from us. Pop quiz is where I'm not getting lazy. We have 3% of the world's children in the entire world in the USA, but what percent of toys do we consume?
Wow. 20.
40.
I just said
Now, this is where this gets tricky. The government, I don't want the government to tell me how many Barbie dolls I can have. But if I only have 3% of the children's world population, but I'm consuming 40% of crap, for lack of a better word, and I don't want government to tell me, but at one point for national security purposes, do I need to slow down on how much I'm consuming, knowing it benefits China? And I've had a lot of people come at me and say, this sounds like Bernie Sanders socialism, where he's dictating you only get 2 Barbie dolls, not 10. But I'm trying to figure out, this doesn't benefit me. This is benefiting China.
But can I
And
ask
don't
you
know
a
how to
question
solve
about that? Because you're the one who always says, I don't care about socks and shoes. And so who cares if we're buying dolls from China? Like, isn't your big beef You don't want to buy the precision manufactured goods from there. So I don't know. I mean, who cares?
I would also argue and say, it's not that anybody's saying you can only have your ration of Barbie dolls. Maybe it is Barbie if Barbie is made there. But they're American toy manufacturers.
Yes.
Kids can still have dolls. They can have other dolls.
Yeah. Well, and Brian, you're getting at a good point, and I go back and forth on this. I want high chips. I want AI. I want ships. I want drones. That I want manufactured in America.
Yeah.
I could probably care less about socks and dolls, except that when we are fueling China's rise, then I start to think twice about my consumption.
We fuel their rise when we send stuff with great IP over to their shop, and then they pull it apart and they reverse engineer it. That, to me, is the issue.
I'll just,
Can I
Which
just
they do.
note one quick thing before we move on? But related to all of this, we got the personal income and spending numbers this morning, and it was your personal income was up 0.8% in April.
Huge.
It was 4 times what the expectation was. And it was revised higher in March, and the savings rate is now running, it was revised to 4.3% in March. It's nearly not 5%, 4.9% in April. These are big increases in the savings rate. That is so incredibly healthy for the United States.
And I'll just add to this, as she's coming to the negotiating table, he's got to think about himself also, because you have a situation where people in his party are coming after him. He's had a very long tenure here, and it's a little shaky with respect to what his standing is in China. And when tariffs were at their fever pitch before this pause, you had the threat of strikes. And if people can't feed their families in a communist country, you're going to have an uprising, and she's going to be out. So my guess is he's also thinking about himself when he's thinking about these negotiations.